for coming. We got a nice group here. Um, Again, looks like we had a successful start to the school year. I want to thank the school board for all of their good work and making, and helping that happen, as well as Dr. King and the entire administration. So we have a full agenda. The council's got plenty of work after this. So I'm going to turn it over to the chair, Dr. Houston.
Thank you, Mayor Frame, members of council, city manager, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. We have an agenda that we presented for our consideration this afternoon that consists of presentations on student achievement, the transformation initiative, as well as our preliminary budget outlook and where we've landed with this current year's budget. So I'm going to give it over to our superintendent, Dr. King, to lead us forward in our first agenda item, student achievement, and of course we'll provide opportunity for Q&A in between each item. Okay, Dr. King?
Yes. Okay. Mayor Frank, members of council, our city manager, as well as members of our board and guests. We will begin with 3 items of focus. The first being student achievement, followed by the transformation initiative, which is a component of the 5-year strategic plan to bring you up to status in reference to that. And we will close with the budget outlook. Of course, we always open with a reminder of the mission vision statement, and that's what you see before you. And in bold print is the visionary reference that was developed by the community when we embarked upon this task of creating a 5-year strategic plan. And that vision centers on striving to make Norfolk the cornerstone of a proudly diverse community. And so again, that's just a reminder, that's not new. So we move quickly forward into student achievement. I want to give you an update and an overview in terms of where we see the progress and the challenges for our school division as it relates to the summative assessments completing last school year. Of course, you see 3 bulleted areas there, which this is entitled One Measure of Achievement. The standards of learning, and SOL, standards of learning, relate directly to the curriculum that teachers are required by the state to present, to roll out each day. And so just wanted to give you a couple of reminders here that, of course, as of August 27th, the state released the official standards of learning pass rates. And so we prepped everyone in terms of what we thought we were going to see there from a manual standpoint. Accreditation ratings, we anticipate official release for those particular statistics and outcomes as of September 16th, along with the notion of priority and focus schools. I would just simply remind each of us that the accreditation piece relates to the state's accountability mechanism that is in place. And so that's one accountability measure, in addition to the federal accountability measure, which really relates to the priority and focus piece. So one federal accountability piece, and also state accountability piece. So we'll talk a little bit about implications there in a few minutes as well. So as we take a look at the aggregate overall, and by that I mean taking a look at where we see us falling in terms of elementary, middle, and high school performance. Where are we resting? That sounds better than falling. As far as movement. And so there are multiple examples of growth. We had approximately 40 out of 45 schools improved in one or more areas across our high stakes assessment. And you have 3 bullets that give you more precise information about what that means. And so that relates to our graduation rates, as well as percentage of students meeting and exceeding standards at the elementary, middle, and high school level across the subject areas. But I will remind us that when we began to do this work earlier in terms of attaching it to the strategic plan and quantifying where we were and looking at targets and movement, we determine our baselines. And in many cases, though you begin to experience improvement across multiple areas, it's going to require consistent, continuous improvement to move us to our top priority, which is 100% accreditation. So, and that, based on the baseline, in many cases, will not happen in 1 year. So while I am very, very adamant about pinpointing the positives and the fact that across the board, in the aggregate, we are improving, I would also remind us of the challenge to continue to improve, because we're going to have to accelerate that process in order to continue to close achievement gaps and move us to the 100% accreditation piece. And so you see with the bullets that 18 schools, for example, had double-digit increases in one or more areas. And you see another piece that relates to the graduation index and graduation growth as we move forward. District-wide, you see examples of gains as it relates to end-of-course tests. You know that end-of-course tests, for the most part, relate to high school. We do, of course, give end-of-course tests at the 8th grade level when they are credit-bearing courses for 8th grade students that are ready for that. So, but I'll remind you that chiefly that relates to high school. District-wide, as we take a look at our graduation rates, we saw improvement in the aggregate. Again, as we take a look at all 5 and where we were previously with our on-time graduation, we experienced growth in the on-time graduation rate. And when you break out those schools, Booker T grew by 7%, 7 percentage points. Lake Taylor gained 5 percentage points to obtain the division's highest graduation, GCI, at 91%. The other 3 high schools also posted their graduation rates at or above the state's requirement. So we're pleased that that occurred. That is the positive, and for Booker T, that's a positive for gain as well. However, the challenge still centers on the fact that though Booker T grew by 7 percentage points, we see them falling. This is a projection and a prediction on our internal work within the team, seeing them falling at around 83%. And that's with the 7% improvement. And you know that the state's requirement is 85. So that leaves us at 2% below where we really want to move in terms of meeting the state's benchmark. But progress in that regard. And so growth across mathematics as well. But again, the concept that I mentioned earlier in reference to continuous improvement, that has to happen to see us move to the accreditation level that we know we will achieve. And so that's a good segue into areas of challenge. You see the first bullet that relates to achievement gaps. I will say to you, when we take a look at disaggregating our data, we do so by individual student subgroups, which means the ethnic categories which are required and were required through No Child Left Behind legislation, which means that we have to separate out how our African American students perform, our white students perform, Hispanic, Asian, multiracial, etc. Also, we must disaggregate by limited English proficient students, so those English language learners, in terms of how they are performing, and do that comparison, in addition to students with disability, which could mean learning disabled or behavior disorder, etc. We must disaggregate across all of those subgroups. The other item of interest across disaggregation of the data will center on economically disadvantaged as well. So we're required to disaggregate that particular student subgroup in addition. And so that simply means those students that qualify to receive free and or reduced lunch. And when we talk about the significant achievement gap, what we have found, and we're continuing to dig deeper, but what we have found is that there's a a gap that is too wide right now for us in terms of disparity in reference to those students that are coming to us from economically disadvantaged households and where they perform compared to those that are from non-economically disadvantaged households. So on the average, those that are from non-economically disadvantaged households are performing at the 80% plus level into 90 plus level compared to those that are from economically disadvantaged households. I only mention that not because that is a variable that should interfere in continuous progress, but because it is a variable that we must take into consideration as we plan, which means that we have to focus on providing safety nets and closing those gaps. Because many times when children enter school, they enter school with those gaps. And we have to do professional development differently to prepare building level leaders and teachers and central level individuals to be able to accelerate closing those gaps. And so I spend a little bit of time on that because once we receive the traction that's necessary around that, that will move us in the direction of not just eliminating, not just closing achievement gaps, but eliminating those. And so you see the reference to acceleration and the reference to 13 schools expected to be fully accredited. Now I'll say to that, for example, if a school is warned in 1 year in terms of a certain subject area and then it's warned the second year, even though it may have posted growth from the first year to the second, if it didn't move to the particular benchmark that is expected, that will not remove that particular school from the category. From that category, it could actually end up being continuously detrimental to it until we move to that absolute bar. So those are things that are important for us, and I wanted to ensure that I mentioned that so that we receive a clearer understanding around what this means. So I'm going to move very quickly through these graphics. Elementary school results relating to SOLs. I mentioned to you that in the aggregate, we posted improvement in most of the areas across the board. You see here in 5 areas, the history, math, reading, writing, and science, that we experienced increases in approximately 3 out of those 5 areas. And we're digging deeper with these subject areas to disaggregate that data to determine the elements of the standard that are important. In other words, what are the concepts that are implicated with the results. As we move forward to middle school, same concept applies here across those 5 subject areas. You will see that in the aggregate, we did experience improvement across approximately 4 out of 5 of the areas overall. Again, it's good to see movement in the right direction. However, again, we must accelerate the rate at which we improve and increase in terms of percentage meeting and exceeding standards. From middle, we will move on to end of course, which is high school. Same concept applies here across those subject areas. You'll see with that comparison when you look across history, math, reading, writing, and science, we posted improvement across 5 of those areas. And so those were positives, and we also pinpointed challenges within those positives. The next slide gives you bullets around research that we are implementing in terms of scientifically based research around what I refer to as the superintendent defying the norm. In other words, what are those things that are tried and true within the research that would garner high success in a system that is implementing transformation, and it centers on the items that you see here. And much of this research comes from, in case you want to take a look, comes from Ed Trust Foundation, which is a research entity that takes a look at urban school districts and closing achievement gaps, and with the whole notion being the common thread around ensuring that rigor remains before each and every student, each and every subgroup as we begin to move forward. So those are the items and the tenets of movement for us going into the school year. The transformation initiative is...
I'll pause just for a second to see if there are any questions on the student achievement area.
right.
Maybe more of a statement. I'm wondering, watching the history and science scores go down, if there's so much intense focus on getting those math and reading scores up, that took a pass in a sense. And I'm wondering if with the state eliminating some of those SOLs, that now we won't have to worry about those results anymore as much. I know there's some alternative assessments that still have to be given, but it will allow the teachers then to focus more on math and English anyway. So.
Well, I will say we will continuously have to find the balance around focus on each of the subject areas, even when the state does its decision-making around removing accountability for high-stakes tests as it relates to certain subject areas. And I'll take a step back to what you alluded to earlier, which would be science and history. As we have begun to look at those results a little bit deeper, we do think that there are some examples of more focus in certain areas because of the emphasis on wanting to improve those areas, and maybe some implications for time spent with science and with social studies, which would have implications for how we do our master schedule and all of those things. And so, but I do think we would have to continue to be adamant about striking a balance across each of the subjects, even when accountability is taken away from that. So,
Thanks.
Dr. King, when you mentioned the elementary school results for 2012 through 2014, the information given is for all elementary schools,
yes.
correct? I really would like to see the breakdown for the schools that we're serving, the disadvantaged schools that we're serving, in comparison to those schools who are succeeding. And maybe if we took a look at the data between those schools, that we can go back to the gap is too wide for us right now, and how could we possibly close it? We know that there are certain things working. Have we identified what those strategies are that are working in some of the other schools?
Sure.
And how could we spread it throughout the entire school system, because we're dealing with the economic disadvantage?
Absolutely. I think you are referring to title versus non-title schools and that performance, and if there were some examples even within title schools where there might have been an outlier in a positive way.
Yeah,
and what was being done in those schools.
And what are we missing, Dr. King, as far as serving the parents, but at the same time that in Norfolk Public Schools, in partnership with the parents, there are certain requirements that the parents have to make to help us be successful in the schools, and that we have to consider those strategies as well as just the economic, as well as the achievement for the children in the school system.
Sure, absolutely.
I had a question in regards to the graduation. What types of diplomas are we issuing? Are we issuing advanced diplomas, and also the number of certificates that you?
Okay. In terms of certificates, I would have to pull that information. However, our focus on the GCI is around the high school diploma itself, not GED, of course. Mr. Coleman, you want to comment on the variety of the approach with college and career readiness and the diploma?
We have 3 diploma tracks that will end this year. We have the honors diploma, we have the regular diploma, and then we have the modified diploma that some of our special education students will qualify for. Although with this year's incoming 9th grade, that modified diploma is now out. So we'll be looking at the regular and the honors. And then you've got the GED certification program, if that's what you're looking at. In terms of this year, we have increased the number of honors diplomas that have been given out and the number of regular ed diplomas versus modified. So that movement is taking place as well.
And in regards to the modified diploma, what can that student do with that? Is that, will a college or community college accept admissions with that?
Yes, I would.
Okay. And if you're eliminating the modified diploma, I'm hoping that you will institute some type of support for those individuals who fall into that category, but won't have that category to make them eligible for the general.
Absolutely. That transition has already been taking place this last school year, so that we're going to this school year with everybody understanding that and building schedules and support for students to be able to make that happen.
All right, thank you.
Sir. Okay. All right, the strategic plan has a component for reconfiguration or transformation, and if you take a look at the three bullets for reconfiguration, you will notice that we have begun the process this year of pairing Fair Lawn as a 3-5 with Poplar Hall Elementary as a pre-K 2. Also P.B. Young as a pre-K 2 with Tidewater Park as a 3-5. The intent here is to allow us to give extreme focus on at the pre-K 2 level, what we refer to as the whole notion of literacy and the notion of learning to read or reading readiness.
I'm sorry, Zach. Apologize.
It cost Okay, pre-K 2, focus on learning to read, in addition to the SOL connections, of course. 3, 4, 5 upper elementary focus on what we refer to as reading to learn. The intent too around pre-K 2 is to increase as much as possible opportunities to have our early literacy, early learning programs for 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds coming into these schools so that we can ensure that our children are reading on grade level and above by the end of 3rd grade. That's the real key. Many of you already know the research around that. You know, once we are successful with that, then it begins to eliminate the need for us to offer so many safety nets, which is what we're doing now. We will continue to do that, but those are necessities. But the whole notion, again, is to increase as many of those early learning opportunities as possible while we continue to roll out the required SOL curriculum and the rigor that's necessary. So you see the 3 bullets there and the intent for movement. You'll notice that for Jaycox and Lindenwood this year, we're continuing to review the likelihood of a pairing or benefit of a pairing, because we want to enter into it when readiness, of course, is there. And so we'll continue to study that particular process this year to determine if that is the case for the next upcoming 15-16 school year, which is a year away. Last bullet speaks to really taking a look at the pathways between elementary and middle school to determine implications from our comprehensive study that was done, to determine implications for and/or benefits for feeder patterns where elementary students move from a particular elementary school into a particular middle, and then how they move from that particular middle into high schools. And that's an ongoing study that will continue from our, that's an ongoing discussion that will continue with our steering committee as a result of the comprehensive study that was done by DeYoung Richter. Next, new options and opportunities. Of course, we're in the process of repurposing Lafayette Winona. It was closed, and at this point, we are developing and moving forward with the committee to focus on our first opportunity for 3-8 district-wide choice with an emphasis on pre-IB, which means readiness around the International Baccalaureate approach, which is a really very beneficial item for us as we feel that by implementing this process, we're going to be able to increase the readiness level for students once they are ready to leave middle school in terms of the decision-making around moving on to a high school international baccalaureate program or other choices. But so this means that it would not be mandatory that these students move directly into the high school IB option, but will certainly ramp up their readiness to do so. So we're spending this year doing the work that's necessary to build capacity to have the choice options with that particular design. The next bullet that you see relates to open campus. This is an item that we have studied for now probably about 1.5 years, and we're excited that we're going to have an opportunity to begin the process of addressing the needs at the middle school level, high school level, and those that have dropped out. At the middle school level, so a three-pronged approach. At the middle school level, really honing in on those students that are what has been referred to as overage for grade, students that are overage in the middle school setting, and they have fallen behind, so then therefore become great candidates or high-risk candidates for dropout. So by being able to pinpoint that caseload and develop customized plans for students that fall into that category to get them back on track, we see that being very beneficial for many reasons. Again, moving towards continuing to increase graduation rate, but also decreasing the dropout rate. The second prong I mentioned is the high school prong. We have students on each of our 5 high school grounds that are behind in credits to the point that mathematically they can't get caught up in a traditional setting. We do offer credit recovery on each of the 5 campuses, and I would submit to you that the schools improve each year around how they offer those credit recovery options to students. However, that you can exercise benefit as a student from that on the traditional grounds only if you have lost a certain number of credits. If you're behind to the point where you have 5+ credits to recover, then credit recovery on the traditional grounds will not allow you to get back on track in a timely manner. So the second prong will allow us to begin to address that caseload as well, and definitely allow us to be proactive with the whole notion of dropout and at-risk students, but again, increase graduation rate. The last prong centers on attracting back those students that have already dropped out. So while we know that we have to react because we have students that did drop out, we also want to be proactive in terms of the middle school level and that high school level, so we don't get to the point where we continue that cycle of students that are at risk for that. So that third prong is a notion of partnering with Magic Johnson Bridgescape to attract back those students that have dropped out so that we can give them their customized plan to recover necessary credits and get them on track for a high school diploma. Also working to tie in some career readiness items along with that to make them employable and to of course, ultimately change the fabric of society and their quality of life. So important for us for open campus. Yes.
Yeah. I know you can't answer this question, it's sort of rhetorical. But how do we keep these students in this category motivated? And then also, how can we identify the reasons that they have dropped out? Is it self-esteem because they are older? Is it poverty because they don't have what everybody else has? Or some of them who might have to drop out to help take care of their families. And I think, several of these reasons, as I say, I'm not looking for an answer, but I just think that we should, recognize that, all of these, or some of these things could be factors that, attribute to why students do drop out.
Yes, I agree. I think that I think the benefit for us is that we are fortunate enough to be able to partner with Magic Johnson Bridgescape, and their expertise has really centered on the whole dropout piece across the nation and other urban districts, and they have a clear track record of being successful with just what you mentioned. And so that's going to be of huge benefit for us. The other piece around motivation,
and how do you keep students motivated. If I think of prong 1 and prong 2, which would be prong 1, the middle school student, prong 2, the high school student. Now, in my view, this very quickly changes their current state of things, because in some cases you're looking at a caseload of students who may say they have no hope in terms of being able to secure a high school diploma because of their situation. Now, by having the appropriate counseling and intervention with the families and taking a look at where they are and how to customize their plan moving forward, it gives them that blueprint in terms of how they can actually move forward and secure that high school diploma. So I think all of those items are items of benefit for us there as well. Other questions?
The open campus school to open, and do you have a location?
Okay. Timeline, we are going to be presenting timeline to the board tomorrow. And Dr. Simmons is going to be presenting that along with Mr. Coleman. We're looking at the 29th, I believe it is. So looking at the 29th in terms of having students in the seats. And from there, that's a piece of attracting those that have dropped out. As we do so, then we are able to also begin to address X number of students from the middle school branch. As we do so successfully, X number, 29. We will begin to have students September. And that's the projected plan. And then also begin to open the door for those high school students as well. Now, in reference to the facility that we've identified at this point is Coronado. And this plan that's going to be presented, projected plan that's going to be presented to the board tomorrow, outlines each step of the way for movement into that facility. With that, Dr. Simmons, would you like to offer any additional comments? Not to put you on the spot, just.
Yes, we will be opening doors to students. We have to count students on September 29. So that is the first formal day for students on September 24th, 25th. We will be having them come in for an orientation. And we're working very closely with the Magic Johnson organization to make sure we identify, recruit, and continue to retain them and have a waiting list just in case we have one that graduates early. We will continue to have the school at our plan max right now of 125 students.
So is this the program that's supposed to go in one of the Calvary Revival schools? And I was disappointed to see that didn't work out. And you know, I was just disappointed because they're nice facilities.
I agree.
And I really wish we could have worked it out.
So it's not going into Calvary Revival, it's going to Coronado?
Yes.
Because I'd seen some
Yes.
recent about that. In fact, I guess of this morning I saw some.
Yep.
So for sure. Have we looked at the bus routes that service that Coronado? Because I'm sure some of these kids, is that something that we have examined?
Yes, we have. It's on a transit hub,
Okay.
and it's also on a transit line. So the dropout students will be able to come back and forth using the transit, and we plan to bus the middle school students and those who are over age for grade.
So what's the capacity?
The capacity of that building is approximately 575, maybe more, but we're starting with 125 students.
I can't imagine Coronado being that large. You had an operation there last year, several operations. What was that? That they had at Coronado last year because it was in use. It was not an empty school.
It's just offices.
Just
offices.
Our child fund pre-K assessment team was housed there.
What was that? I'm sorry.
Our pre-K child fund assessment team was at Coronado last year and will be transitioning to a new location. As for our 2- and 3-year-old special needs students on the assessments of those children were done at Coronado last year.
Can we go back to the buses? Because it's not on a transit.
It is.
Yeah.
It's not there's
a bus stop right in front of the building.
No, I'm talking about you had mentioned something else. You had said a transit line and hub. The hub is at Evelyn Butts. That's not right there. That's down the street, right?
It's nearby.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
it's at Evelyn Butts and it's going to be at Ward's Corner. Those are the two transit. So there's a bus that services it right on Widgeon?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I wanted to make sure. Now, do we know that will it be servicing them at night if how late we're gonna go to make sure that they're gonna still be coming by at night to pick these kids up?
We're starting with the day program, and we'll
Okay.
answer that question before we add the night
Good.
program.
I just wanna make sure, because a
Yes.
lot of times they cut back, the ridership into the evening. If you have kids coming out at 9 o'clock, you may not have a bus stopping on Widgeon Road at 9. Just,
The program ends at 4.
okay, and then what about kids who work during the day? How does this service them?
See, I don't know, you want me to handle that question?
Yeah, well, I'll offer some introductory statements first. So, we're beginning with the session 1 and session 2,
Okay,
which will be the morning session and an afternoon session.
okay,
And as we grow and receive these students, and we plan to move into the evening session so that we can accommodate those students. But moving slowly so that we can do it with quality.
Right.
So that's the
Okay.
plan.
so thank you.
That's
Thank
a
you very
pretty,
much.
that section is probably, if you go back to the Dijon Richter study, there's more young people and people in that section of the city than anywhere else in the city of Norfolk. So there's very active bus lines that run through Sewell's Point and Tidewater Drive area. It's the nature of it, and they're very active. In fact, probably in walking distance to quite a few students that may end up using this facility. It's a very high. What'd you say?
It sits between Tidewater Drive and Sewell's Point.
But only one building off from Sewell's Point Road.
Yeah,
It's
Right.
just a mega mark is there.
it's barely a
Yeah,
walk.
I got the map in front of me. I can see it.
Yeah.
But when you got a child who's 18 years old at 9 o'clock at night, I want to make sure that the bus is going to still be running.
Yeah.
That's my point. I get it. Thank you.
And what will we ensure that the scholars are able to get to the school? I know we're putting the responsibility on the high school, correct? That they take the bus line, correct? Is that what you're saying? And Norfolk Public Schools will transport the middle school children?
We're still working those details out, but right now we plan to transport the students that are over age for grade and behind on credits and still in high school. And dropout students will be using, hopefully, tokens to use the transit line. We've got more details that we're working with.
And Norfolk Public Schools is gonna provide the tokens for the students?
We have budgeted an amount to cover that, yes.
Okay.
So of course, again, that's the reason we have to look at the numbers
Okay.
and ensure that the numbers that we have on the caseload, that we can accommodate it based on budgetary needs, and then grow from there. So the numbers that we've mentioned thus far are numbers that we know that will work right now, today. So, and we should be able to grow from that point. But to your point, in reference to transportation, we will be providing transportation for those middle school students and those high school students. And so, within NPS, to ensure that they're there.
Have you all partnered or thought of, excuse me, have you thought of or talked to HRT? I know that you have a budgeted amount that you're looking at for probably purchasing tokens, but since we spend a lot of our money with HRT, have we thought about asking HRT to possibly partner in this venture and maybe provide tokens or something or another that you don't have to pay for to help the children get back and forth to school?
I have a meeting on the calendar to discuss just that next week.
Okay.
HRT will give you whatever amount of service the city is willing to subsidize. It's all based on, we pay for what we get, so if that becomes a problem, I have to go to them through the budget process and try to say, okay, we need more service there, be it later or earlier, whatever.
I've inquired about this before, and HRT's response back was that because the student fare is already discounted, that is their discount for the fares. They do not offer a even more reduction, and this was a year and a half ago because I had a grant which I could purchase quite a large amount of those, and they would not discount it for school systems. They stopped doing that years ago. It's claiming that it was the student fare is the discounted fare.
That was before open campus.
Yeah.
But
So
there is the Go Pass thing too, which may be
That's the-
negotiated with HRT between the school and the city. you're gonna get that kind of use.
You need to get with him. That's the man with the power right there.
Give
Dr.
it
King,
Yes.
I know that you had originally planned to go out to Calvary, and you were going to use at that school, I think, some of the desks and tables and chairs and some of the equipment that was available there. Is that a fair statement?
Within our, you mean as far as open campus?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
at Calvary, what I'm trying to say, are you have enough funds to actually handle your one-time, this is a softball, doctor, okay? I mean, because we're gonna have a retreat soon, and the council will probably talk about money issues. I mean, or you have some unanticipated costs at the open campus, which I think is a great program. I mean, are you gonna, if you budgeted for everything that you need, or are you gonna, if you need some help, that's what we're here for?
We need some help, and there
I'm sure
are
you
some
will.
unanticipated costs.
Okay.
And I'll leave with Dr. King to have the funds.
Okay, well, why don't you give us the scope of that at some other time once
We
you've
will.
actually got your hands around it, and we'll see if the council, you know,
Okay.
on a one-time basis. But I know you got that many, 120-some students, and you've got, you know, it's just, it seems to me like if you don't have a budget for that, which you weren't anticipating, maybe we can help you.
And on the other hand too, since Calvary is open now, that building, I believe, was designed to hold about 600 kids. This may be an opportunity for the city to pick up a newer school building to be used either for programs or to move elementary school that's a lot older into that facility. And so as we continue on and we look at possibilities, the property's probably going to just sit there, and hopefully we could work with the church on seeing what they would want to do, working with us on it, because I'd hate to see that building just continue to deteriorate because it's not being used. It's in good shape other than some, you know, typical HVAC and other issues, but other than that, it's a good building.
I just looked, I don't see a bus stop on Widgeon. I've just looked.
It's right in front of it. There's a covered bus
Do me a
stop right.
favor, check first. I just went through.
We went over there, Andy, and looked at it. There's a covered bus stop.
Tell me
Yeah,
what, when
it's
you get a
right there.
chance, I want to know what route it is. Tell me what route it is.
What route
When you
it
get a
is,
chance, I want to know the route.
I will.
Down from my
It
grandmother's
used to be
house,
called a
promise it's
Paranada.
Yeah. I just want to make sure that we got a bus stop.
You don't have it in a file somewhere, right?
Yeah, I hear, I don't know the route.
Do the
I'm
street
trying.
view
I
of
don't know
Google,
either, but
and
I
you
know
can
the
see it
bus
right
stop is
there.
there.
It's right
That's
there.
fine. I just want to know that it's serviced by a bus. If it's not, let's get one there. Because I've checked, the closest I saw was Sewell's Point Road, closest I saw was Tidewater Drive. I just want to make sure that it sits right on a route. You can tell me there's a bus stop there that doesn't tell me a bus stops there. I want to know the route because I don't see it. And I just went through every route that is in that area.
All right, so beyond that particular item, CTE, it's an ongoing discussion because we, of course, are a part of a collaborative with the committee, representative task force, and meetings are continuing to discuss our capacity and feasibility and partnering with the city to begin to have those discussions around funding, also development of the prospectus, and again, partnering with the city to do so, programmatic from our end as far as the prospectus, and as well as allowing opportunity to outline the particular emphasis, the focal point, and also the pathways, the industry level pathways to reach career readiness and industry level certification. So, and also a work ready piece that's attached to that. Any other comments around CTE before I move on? All right. Next, expanded choice options at newly constructed schools. This is not new. This is a list of those 5 structures that we have had the opportunity to enter in community conversations for each. and move forward from there. And the PPA committee continues to do its work as it relates to these particular facilities, and we expect to see that continue. I know that tomorrow we'll also receive a continuous update as we do our work session tomorrow with the city and the school system as far as the committee presenting a status report, I should call it, as far as new construction.
Isn't there shouldn't we have a sense of urgency about this? Not that we haven't, but I mean, especially at Campostella, where these kids are divided, and I know Ron is working like crazy on this thing, but do you have an anticipated groundbreaking date for Campostella? And maybe it's budgetary, maybe I'm out of my lane here, but.
And Mayor, that'll be determined when we negotiate the comprehensive agreement in November. So realistically, it'll be early 2015.
The groundbreaking. So, and it's about an 18-month construction phase?
That's right.
So you're going to try to get open then for fall of
16.
Fall of 16. Okay. I just don't want to lose, I mean, you got a lot of schools to build. Okay. I mean, we have got to get on with this task.
So there's a sense of urgency. We'll get the presentation tomorrow from Mr. Williams, and we're at 20% currently. And from everything that we've been able to review, and I think the collaboration has been good with the communications department posting the drawings for community comments and feedback. And from all indications, it seems like tomorrow we should have all lights green, I hope, to continue moving forward.
Well, I appreciate that. there is a sense of urgency. Some of us voted for a tax increase to build these buildings, and I don't want to be going into a third budget cycle here and not have anything coming out of the ground. Okay?
And so we will.
I just want to go back on record in the Broad Creek School with the name of the school to make sure that we don't lose the Richard Bowling element to the name of the Broad Creek School. So, yeah,
Yes.
just to keep that the Broad Creek, Richard Bowling at Broad Creek School.
Just Richard Bowling.
Or
Yes.
Richard Bowling at, whatever it is. I mean, it's, if we can combine the old with the new, I think it would be really good. But I just want to make sure that we keep that also, it doesn't fall off the radar
And let me say, there's never
and fall off the marquee.
an official discussion on the school board to change the name of any of the schools. Of course, the Richard Bowling School a couple of years ago, I started being referred to by community members as referenced as the Broad Creek School. But there's never been an official discussion or an official recommendation, a formal recommendation, I should say, to the school board to recommend the changing of the name of the school.
And I understand that, and everything that we've seen, though, has not referred to the school as Richard Bowling. Everything that has been printed pretty much has said the Broad Creek School or the school at Broad Creek. And so I just want to make sure that we don't lose that Richard Bowling element in whatever we do going forward with that school, because that's just very historically important, to the community.
And it has been presented as the Broad Creek School.
To who?
To the community, and they are very much so confused that the name has already changed. Many questions being asked, not only just in the Broad Creek area, but surrounding areas with the Broad Creek community. And it was presented as the Broad Creek School, and it has been asked officially. With the system.
Just wipe the slate. From now on, it's called Richard Bowling. Unless there's any pushback from any orders here, we'll just deal with that. Mr. Manager, can I ask you, I know we're planning on co-locating the library.
Yes.
There. And at what point do we start to find an architect for the library or engage the community in discussions about the library? I don't know what the public process is, but I know we've got $10 million set aside to do this library, which is a good thing.
Right.
But I just want to, I want to get on with it. I want to know what it's going to look like, how it's going to feel, and maybe the same architect who's doing the school is maybe doing the library. I don't think we've
initiating a design build
Okay.
contract for that.
Okay.
And it'll be timed to dovetail right at the end of the phase of the construction for Richard Bowling Elementary. Yeah, we'll be releasing that this fall. And so realistically, the spring, summer is the time frame when we'd be looking for public input on obviously wanting it to complement the school as well.
Yeah, well, that's a story that's not been very well appreciated, by the way. I mean, the community needs to understand that library is moving forward, and we need to celebrate that at some point as well. I mean, we need to get some good news there. $10 million new anchor library that's will also be a great benefit to the students there as well, so they can take advantage of it. It's all going to be good. Okay.
Okay, our last item centers on preliminary FY 2016 budget outlook. And Dr. Thornton is coming
Dr.
forward.
Thorne, one last question. Where in all of this does the STEM regional school fit? Is that just a side discussion that's going? The governor's school, governor's STEM school?
At this point, I know that, I guess I would refer to it as a feasibility study being done and completed. And so for ongoing planning was outlined for this current year around that governor's school piece. And,
I know a lot of cities would like to have that.
Right, and
I'd like to have it in office.
I think the contact at this point has been with 4 or 5 other divisions now that will be interested in partnering to do this.
So actually, just received feedback from a consultant that we've hired to lead us in the feasibility study, Mr. Sawyer. And we just received actually a report back that the board will be considering. And there is some regional interest in other districts, as Dr. King has alluded to.
Oh, I know. I know. I mean, some people have said, we've got the Governor's School for the Arts, we want the, and I don't buy that. That school ought to be here.
Mayor, to your point, the council approved funding in the FY15 capital improvement plan for that study. The city put the money in for that study.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Budget.
All right, Mayor Frame, Dr. Houston, council members, school board members, Mr. Jones, and Dr. King, good afternoon. I have for you a very brief preliminary outlook on our FY16 operating budget. Obviously, we're just in the first quarter of the current fiscal year, but there is some trends that are taking place that many of you are aware of, particularly at the state level, that we just want to share with the council and school board at this time. This presentation is actually a preview of what we're going to share with the board tomorrow as well. So I'll just share with you a quick overview of our current FY15 operating budget, as well as a preliminary revenue outlook for 2016, a preliminary expenditure considerations, next steps, and of course questions and discussion if there are any. Of course, our current approved operating budget is $300.6 million. This was approved following the City Council action. Of course, since that time, we have also gotten some additional information from the state regarding some additional funds for specific programs, not a significant amount of money, but we've shared with the city manager's staff some amendments that we would ask the council to consider later in this fall, I believe, regarding some amendments that would capture that additional state revenue as well as some additional federal revenue for our Medicaid reimbursement program. The total of those two would be approximately $883,000. That would be coming forward to the council in time for your final appropriation amendments as you would undertake those in the weeks and perhaps months to come. In terms of preliminary revenue outlook for FY16, which is the second year of the current biennium, of course, by now you know that the state is in the process of reforecasting their major revenue sources, considering the fact that this past fiscal year, their projected revenues came in nearly $500 million under projection. So that has caused the state to recalculate on an interim basis their revenue forecast for the this current biennium. To date, based on Secretary of Finance Rick Brown's August 2014 interim revenue forecast, at this point in time, the state is forecasting approximately $2.0 billion reduction in the original forecast that was the basis for the current biennium. So I say all that to say that the potential implications on K-12 funding for the second year in the current biennium, FY 15-16, at this point in time is to be determined. We will probably have more of an indication in all likelihood when the governor releases his proposed budget amendments in December. At this point in time, the point here is that we know that the overall state revenue forecast is being reforecast with reductions. However, we do not know at this point in time what the implications, if any, will be on the second year of K-12 funding. At this point in time, we've got no indications that there will be any adjustments in the current year's K-12 funding because obviously we've already, like school divisions across the Commonwealth, have already made commitments based on the state's revenue projection for this year.
Just one comment. I was at a meeting the other night in Richmond with a number of other mayors, and the governor was at a meeting, and he was talking about this. And he was talking about how much he was hearing from the higher education, saying that they've already they've taken their cuts, and you can't cut higher education any further. Well, he says, I guess the message was that local governments and school districts need to be writing him saying, you can't touch our budgets. I don't know where you can go, but I think the school budgets ought to be sacred, and they should be. We ought to get on the record for writing him and saying that we understand you got problems, but your problems can't be our problems now. We already, So, but the presidents of the various universities are calling him constantly.
And of course, as we look at our other major funding sources for the operating budget, local funds, of course, that will be city appropriations to be determined at this point, federal funds, again, to be determined, and of course, local other revenues to be determined. Again, we also have to be reminded that in the current operating budget of $317.6 million, there's approximately $3 million in one-time CTI funding that was reappropriated for this year. That will not be part of the base revenue for next year. And then the other portion of one-time in nature local support, $5.9 million, albeit it was critical in closing the current year's gap, but it is intended, at least as we planned, that it was intended to be one-time funding short of council coming back during the budget process and providing additional funding. So again, we have to keep that in mind as we go forward in our planning. And of course, implications to FY16 at the base, those one-time funds would come out totaling approximately $8.9 million. And we know that as we made the decisions and the choices we made this past spring, that we will have to factor that into our planning for this coming 15-16. And on the expenditure side of the budget, of course, competitive compensation is always a focus of ours, to remain competitive and not to fall behind in the region. We feel like in terms of our teacher salary scale, it's competitive, but again, the challenge is that we not fall behind as other school divisions move forward as well. All of us are going to be faced with the state revenue challenge, but we don't want to lose sight of our competitive position in the teacher market. And of course, the continued implementation of the strategic plan, again, to be determined. We're very early in the process, but these are some of the things that we need to be sensitive to as we go forward in our planning. Of course, the bottom line, the uncertainty, the ongoing uncertainty at this point of the state revenue picture combined with the elimination of one-time revenues will again create significant challenges for us and school divisions around the Commonwealth for that matter, as we address the ongoing needs of our students and school community. And next steps, the school board is in the process, or will begin the process of deliberating over school board budget goals. The superintendent has asked that we reconvene the Budget Advisory Committee, again anticipating some very tough choices that we're going to have to make, and we want input from our school community stakeholders. Of course, our ongoing student enrollment projection process will determine the basis for our staffing needs as well as our state revenue estimates. Update on state revenue estimates following the governor's release of his proposed amendments in December. and then identifying our expenditure needs, and of course, the annual process of identifying budget balancing alternatives and strategies. That concludes the preliminary budget outlook.
Any questions?
I just wanted to just add, I think many of you are aware that I serve on the Virginia Municipal League's Legislative Committee, but also I'm Vice Committee Chair of the Human Development Education Committee. And we've been working, we were working in partnership with fighting the OEI legislation. We have been successful on scheduling a meeting with Secretary Ann Holton on September 18th. The chair of the committee, myself, Brian Pennington, and 2 other council members, as well as the VML representative, will be meeting with her to discuss next steps with OEI and how the Secretary and the Governor's office can support school districts, not try to take over schools, but support us with some of the things that we know are important. And so looking at the Transformation Initiative, we will be presenting some of those concepts and ideas to the Secretary and making sure that we keep that conversation at the table. And I know the mayor has expressed that it probably in all the years you've been mayor, this Secretary seems to be very committed to particularly working in urban school systems, and we're excited about this opportunity and partnering with them.
Yeah, I'd just like to say that I'm glad that we're here today, and I would hope that we could get together at least 2 more times before that we start the budget process. And the school district and the school board is under a lot of pressure, a lot of undue pressure from the community, and a lot of unnecessary pressure from the Virginian pilot. I was insulted that one writer for the pilot continues to do whatever that writer can do to bring a disparaging views of our district, to question the character and honesty of our school board chairman was extremely disturbing to me. So I just thank all of you for doing what you do in spite of the challenges that you do have. And I would just hope that you would push back on the Virginian pilot. Get your neighbors and friends to send emails, write articles, and give them what they deserve. That's it. And those of you who are on this board that agree with the pilot, you need to resign.
Okay, well, thank you very much. This has been, a very profitable use of time. So thank you all for what you're doing. Dr. Courtney, Dr. King. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Very good.
Ready?